Hello, welcome back to another edition of JW Football Talk. I'm your host, Cody Johnson, along with my co-host, Cody Wolf, and special guest, back again, 713 Houston Sportscast. Man, if y'all don't already, I'm sure y'all do. Go give him a follow. Go check out his Texans content. He's pumping out shit every day. So
I don't know how I'm doing it, but I'm doing it.
But all right, we're getting into the rumors. Today, we're talking about the one, the only Jamal Adams. And we're going to talk about him for the Cowboys and the Texans in this video. So we're going to go over the Cowboys situation first and what they're going to look at. So Texans fans, I will put a timestamp in the description below. Go look if you want to skip directly to the Texans part of this video.
Don't skip.
Yeah, because nobody cares about the Cowboys.
Don't skip.
All right, so we're going to first for the Cowboys, Jamal Adams. Kind of look at if y'all were to make the trade, Cody, what would it mean for the team, for the Dallas Cowboys? Go ahead.
Well, first I'll start off for the fan base. I mean, obviously, Cowboys fans, we've been literally bouncing our heads off the concrete walls for, over a decade now, asking for a safety, for a legitimate safety. Xavier Woods is honestly probably the closest thing we've had. We had Ken Hamlin back in 8 years ago. He made the Pro Bowl, but that was like a name deal. I think that was 2007. So yeah, like I said, well over a decade. 07 made a Pro Bowl. It Cowboys and needing a safety, man, it goes together like ham and cheese. As far as the defensive personnel itself is actually concerned, not just a cliche. We actually do have a hole there. Regardless of the fact that they signed HaHa and Woods. Look, Xavier's going to be a free agent next year, and HaHa was on a one-year deal. Behind those two, we've got some developmental prospects that are, fingers crossed, but, certainly nobody that you're going to sit there and leverage against, the possibility of acquiring a player the caliber of Jamal Adams. So to the fans, it would mean a lot, and, of course, Jerry Jones, he likes to make the big splash, yada, yada, yada. But to the team itself, a player of that caliber in the back end of the secondary, especially considering that we lost Byron Jones. Not saying that what we did to address the corner, group isn't going to offset that, but you throw Jamal Adams in that back end, and all of a sudden losing Byron Jones, if there is more drop off than what fans are hoping for, Jamal Adams is going to mitigate a lot of that.
So then, real quick before I ask Ruben a question. What would you, if you make the move for Jamal, what is the safety situation looking like for y'all? He's the starting strong safety, obviously. Is Woods the starting free safety, and HaHa is the third safety off the bench?
See, I don't know, man, because Xavier, he's a guy who's very good at laying the wood as well. He's a pretty physical guy, and he was playing free, solely because we had Jeff Heath at strong. HaHa himself, despite his reputation, is definitely more of the free safety type. Now, is he a caliber of player that I think that staff is going to throw in over Xavier? I don't know. It's also a new staff. Mm-hmm. And for this still the same old Jason Garrett, Rod Marinelli crap, Chris Richard, I'm going to say there's probably no chance that, Xavier Woods is, losing that spot. But it's, I think HaHa would fit better. I don't want to put anything against Xavier. He was a guy on the upswing. A lot of people expect him to take that jump next year. He didn't, but nobody on that defense really played outstanding last year, aside from Robert Quinn. That was really it, man. And Byron Jones had himself another good year. Wasn't as good 2 years ago, but it was a good year. So.
I gotcha. So, Ruben, real quick, from the outside looking in, after the offseason and the draft that the Cowboys had, if they were to make a move they pulled off the move for Jamal Adams, what do you think about that team going into this season?
So one thing about me, even though I hate the Cowboys with every inch of my soul, you have to give respect to them. If they somehow got Jamal Adams, that team will be dangerous. Jamal Adams, one of the best safeties in the league, can do it all. Get to the quarterback, get to the running backs, cover tight ends, maybe even cover wideouts. Jamal Adams is that type of player. And if the Cowboys get him, I'll be super mad. But it will be a very, very hard team to beat. Very hard. Because, you have dogs on defense, and then you have dogs on offense. And now you're looking at, one of the most watched teams in America. I don't know why, but every watch team, everybody watches the Dallas Cowboys. And they're going to be fun to watch. if they get Jamal Adams, it's just they're going to be dangerous if they do.
So exactly, it kind of feels like he would be the final piece to really mold that roster
Exactly
for this year and for future years because he's got.
But I
2
don't think
years
they
on his...
need him though.
Oh yeah, you don't think they need him?
I don't think they needed
I
Jamal
don't
Adams.
think they need him.
I agree.
I think if they get him, they're like, okay, this team's gonna contend. This team, do they need Jamal Adams? No. But if they got him, boy, that's gonna be something nice.
It's icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Is what it is. So let's go into what compensation would look like. So rumors I've been hearing, is the Jets are looking for a first and a third. Right? So, Cody, what would you think the Cowboys, would have to give up to get a Jamal Adams?
Well, here's the thing. So Mike Fisher, who is with 105.3, the fan down there in Dallas, and he's really plugged into that organization. He came out and he said that last year they offered a first and Anthony Brown, who, he's a guy who's played outside, played inside, primarily a nickel slot guy, but still a player. He's not just some scrub, he's not just some throw-in, in addition to that first rounder. So I think you're going to start with that. Dallas, it's a team there. They really value their draft picks. Now, I say that they value them, but they use them appropriately. They're not going to throw them away. Look, they traded what they did for Amari Cooper. That turned out to be, I feel the right decision. Especially at that position that slot that they had in that draft, giving up that first, considering the age for Amari, it was a good decision. This is another incredibly similar situation that fits a need. This is a young guy. And they are well aware that they're going to have to pay him. When they made that deal for Amari, there was no surprise that guy was going to get an extension. And everybody in the league knew that the Cowboys were going to be the ones to give it to him. So the compensation, I don't think we're looking at 2 premium picks here. If they were going to pull that trigger a year ago, then maybe they would have got that first and that third. As we get closer and closer to, the deadline of his contract, or he gets more disgruntled, more public, that price is only going to go down more and more and more. The less future cost control value you have on your contract, the less value you're going to have to other teams. That's the way the league works. So no matter what, though, this guy, you're starting at a first rounder, no matter what. The question then is, are we going to see? I think we're going to see probably some needier teams throw their names, into the ring with a first and a second. The first and the third, I could see a few teams buying on that. I really could. However, and you and I had this discussion earlier, I will say this. Oh, we lost Ruben.
Yeah, he froze there, so just keep going.
All right. It's probably he knows the Cowboys are going to get him. But like we were talking about before, while Jamal Adams is good, and I'm not going to sit here and say he's not the best in the game, or he is, this isn't Ed Reed, and this isn't Troy Polamalu. And for everybody out here beating the drum for Jamal Adams, he only has 2 career interceptions in 3 seasons. I'm not trying to sit here and find a reason why this guy sucks, because he certainly doesn't. But like Ruben said, Dallas does not need him. And look what happened. Here's one point I will make. Dallas offered that first rounder for Jamal Adams. The Jets didn't bite. We got CeeDee Lamb out of it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've never seen CeeDee play a single down in professional football. Stands right now, I am pretty comfortable with having CeeDee Lamb on this roster and not having Jamal Adams. When you factor in contracts, the fact that this guy just a few years into his career is already disgruntled and asking for a rookie contract, it's already doing that. So but ultimately the compensation, Dallas, they probably won't need to shed some contracts. They could probably afford to jettison a quality player like they tried to do with Anthony Brown, on top of that first. So I think you're starting it there again. And depending on how New York feels, I know they still need cornerbacks. Maybe you throw Chidobe Awuzie in there, who is better than Anthony Brown, though he is going to be a free agent after next season. The Jets would obviously make that deal knowing full well that's going to be an instant extension. Otherwise, you pretty much only got a first out of it. But I like the first in a player. I think that's where Dallas would go.
Okay. Ruben, you good?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't know that was going to happen.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I just want to make sure we're all good now. So, going to you, he just talked about what he thought would Dallas would have to give up. So I'm going to ask you. Don't really go into the Texans yet. I just want to ask you. For people who think, oh, Jamal Adams is going to demand 2 firsts, what do you have to say to that? Because personally, for me, I don't see it. I don't care that Khalil Mack got it. I don't care that Jalen Ramsey got it. Both those guys are more valuable at their position than a safety is.
And better, in my opinion.
And then not only that, but you also have to look at, we traded away Clowney for a third. We traded away DeAndre Hopkins for basically Ross Blacklock. So I don't think he's gonna demand the 2 first-round picks. Like Cody said, the more disgruntled he gets, the more his price will drop. And so I feel like he has a lot of leverage, and he says where he wants to go, because he could basically tell the Jets, look, man, you're either gonna lose me and not get nothing, or send me where I want to. And he wants to play in Texas. That's just right there. So to me, it comes down to either us or the Cowboys, Texas or the Cowboys, and we're gonna figure out. But I don't think he's gonna get the 2 first.
Yeah, man. And then like me and Cody were talking about this earlier. Right now the Jets might have leverage at this point, but the way we've seen players kind of handle their trade discussion, like Antonio Brown, we saw, oh, you're gonna trade me there, I'm not signing, I'm not going.
Rob Gronkowski said, he told the Patriots, if you trade me to the Lions, I'm gonna retire.
Clowney, he said, I'm not going to Miami. So these players are starting to control where they're going a little bit more. So it's going to be interesting to see, like, because Cody said maybe a more desperate team might throw a first and a second, but the teams he named, I don't know, can do that with being able to pay him what he wants as well. So that leads us into our cap problem for the Cowboys. So 2 more years on his contract. It's up in 2022. You sign him to a new deal. That's when the new contract would hit. Now everybody understands that. You bring him in and you sign him. It's not an immediate thing. It's a extension, not a raise. It's an extension. So I just get that point out there. So for 2022, right now as it stands, the Cowboys have $68 million in cap. Now that's with an unsigned Dak. You got Cooper. You got both Smiths. You got DeMarcus Lawrence under contract. And then a few other guys, your big name guys. Mm-hmm. Do you think y'all can make it work financially?
Oh, yeah. I read something yesterday that there is some league-wide anticipation that by 2023 or 2024 that the cap's going to be at $300 million. And that they're going to borrow from that cap. That the league itself is trying to figure out how to borrow from future caps to be able to supplement for this year's cap if there is a season, because of all the lost revenue and everything. So the salary cap's going to plummet, and really that's just going to screw with everybody's plans. So many people have got a lot of their contracts already allocated, on numbers that are going to exceed what the cap is actually going to turn out to be this year. So I'm thinking they're going to borrow against the future. But if the cap is that number, $300 million, it's God. 2 years down the road, I mean, there really shouldn't be much of a consideration or worry for anybody, unless you are just so cash strapped and you're just handing out horrible contracts left and right. In Dallas, to their credit, in the Tony Romo years, they were just awful at handling the cap, man. They signed all the big free agents that they could, and they kicked his contract down the road, much the way New Orleans has done with Drew Brees. Their GM has openly said, yeah, when Brees retires, we're going to have to pay the piper because we've just extended, renegotiated. Dallas learned from that mistake, and they've been pretty savvy with the cap, in the past 6-7 years, and they got themselves out of some cap hell with Romo. So I don't have any qualms there that they could figure it out, especially, like I said, they're talking about 2 years down the road. Here's what I will say, though. This guy says he doesn't want to sign the extension now. Any team that trades for him, you should sign the extension now. Because if you wait 2 years, his price is just going to go up.
Tunsil.
Exactly. So as soon as you get him, and it's the same thing with Amari Cooper. But Amari was smart. He was like, no, I'm good. I don't need to sign my contract right now. I'll wait another season. I'm cool. And he got more money out of it. It's going to be the same thing with Jamal Adams. So this whole thing where it makes it more palatable because he's going to wait, it doesn't. Because like you just said, Cody, you sign a contract extension, it's an extension. It kicks in later. So whoever trades for him, they need to ink him then, you know. So Dallas, I think they can do it. Like I said, I think any team can swing it. You know, you go that far ahead into the future, it's, you know, unless Patrick Mahomes gets an $800 million contract or something, you know, I mean, everybody should be open.
So that's our Cowboys portion. Let's go to the Texans real quick. All right. So for me, what Jamal Adams would mean for the Houston Texans. One is we won't have to worry about the secondary anymore. I think he allows – mainly my point here is Jamal Adams – bringing in Jamal Adams to be the strong safety allows Justin Reed to move to free safety without having to worry about whoever's next to him. I hope that makes sense. So essentially, I feel right now Justin Reed is a better strong safety than he is free safety, although he can play free safety. But him moving to free safety with Eric Murray next to him, I almost feel like he's playing two positions while playing the free safety spot. I hope that makes sense in terms of he has to worry about Eric Murray messing up next to him. While if it's Jamal Adams, you don't have to worry about a damn thing. Jamal Adams is going to be the cleanup guy underneath, and you just got to worry about your position, what you're doing, playing over the top, coverage, terms like that. So, Ruben, what do you think about kind of what I said there?
I mean, I totally agree to add on. I think Jamal Adams brings that fire, brings that dog in him that that the Houston Texans have not had since, Tyrann Mathieu was here. That's what the Houston Texans defense need, is somebody who's just going to be an absolute force. And, like I said for the Cowboys, they don't need Jamal Adams. The Houston Texans do. We absolutely need Jamal Adams because I have no faith in Eric Murray whatsoever. This defense is already depleted. We are hoping that rookies, help this pass rush. We are hoping that Jacob Martin helps this pass rush. And if you have a horrible pass rush, your secondary will get torched. And I'm sorry, but, if that's going to be the case, then I want the best safety tandem in the NFL.
Okay, so and it goes both ways too. A pass rush can help a good secondary. A damn good secondary can help a pass rush. We saw with the Atlanta Falcons that Super Bowl year. He froze again. Yeah. We saw it with that Super Bowl team in Atlanta. Vic Beasley had 15 sacks, and like Cody always says, didn't he have more sacks than hurries?
Like 14 pressures. It was the craziest thing.
Yeah, dude. So what do you think about, how getting Jamal Adams would affect this Houston Texans team? I think, it's got to be a top secondary in the league at that point.
Who, him or me?
You,
okay.
Cody.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing that I really want to state that his pass rushing prowess, Jamal Adams, his ability to get after the quarterback. Like Ruben said, the Cowboys don't really need him. Of course, you guys have Watt and Merciless, and hopefully Blacklock turns into something. But I feel like Dallas has enough pass rushers and pass rushing types on that defensive line and also in that front seven as a whole, with Jalen Smith, that the pass rush, while it's no sure thing, I feel like it's in better shape than it is for the Texans. Jamal Adams has an obscene number of sacks from the safety position since he's come into the league. I forget what the exact number is, but it is head and shoulders. I think it's like triple what the number two guy behind him is. So as long as Anthony Weaver can get a little creative, and be a little versatile, and use Jamal Adams the way that he has been, utilized in New York, and use him even more so in Houston, I think that that's going to help mitigate some of those pass rush questions that the Texans have. So I think he's going to be, like Ruben said, we don't need him. I think you guys do.
Go ahead, Ruben.
If Jamal Adams was on the Houston Texans last season, he would be number 2 in sacks behind Merciless.
There you go. Yeah. There you
Jamal
go.
Adams changes this defense. And that's why, man, if you're Bill O'Brien, dude, screw them picks, man. You have to go get him. If I'm Bill O'Brien and I'm thinking, look, I am now the man in charge. I'm now the head honcho. If I screw up, there's nobody else to blame but myself. So why not put all my eggs in all one basket and go get the best safety in the league? And you pair him up with Justin Reed, that's going to be nasty. That's going to be hard. People do not fear this Houston Texans defense. They're going to fear him with Jamal Adams.
Real quick, do y'all think that safety tandem pushes the likes of an Earl Thomas and I'm sorry, who was his running mate in Seattle? Cam Chancellor.
Chancellor?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, they're both still young, dude. I mean, we have to see how how they grow. Probably not.
Just curious what your thoughts were. So, trade compensation is what I'm going to get into next because, God, people have been irritating the crap out of me when I've been arguing about this. My trade scenario, and I'll let Ruben get into what he might have, was like I said earlier, they're looking for a first and a third, according to rumors. My trade scenario was give them a third this year, a second next year, and add in Will Fuller. They lost Robbie Anderson to the Carolina in free agency. Will Fuller fits that need, and he's still a very talented receiver. He just can't stay healthy. So on the Jets end of that, you get a receiver to pair alongside Mims, and if it doesn't work out, you're only tied to him for this year. After this year, you can let him walk. You don't have to pay him. If it does work out, this guy who's been injury riddled his whole career, and he finally has a good season, mostly healthy season, you still don't have to pay him that much because 1 year is not going to mitigate all the other unhealthy seasons. So that's the reason I think that something like that could work. Maybe you have to add in a fifth-round pick later. People complaining about a third-round pick, I'm about to lose it. It's a third-round pick in a draft where we already don't have a first and a second. Who gives a rat's ass? Honestly,
We haven't been good at drafting in the third round anyway.
Like, what is a third-round pick going to do? What kind of impact is a third-round pick going to have that Jamal Adams wouldn't have? Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It's a third-round pick, guys, and not to mention that we're probably going to get a third in compensation from DJ Reader.
No, we're getting a third because it's a big old contract.
As long as he's healthy, he has to have the play time. But I'm so tired. Oh, we don't have a first and a second. Oh, we need that third, dude. It's a third-round pick. It's a third-round pick. You're not going to get a Jamal Adams in the third round. It's very unlikely you get a Jamal Adams in the third round. Sorry, I went on a little rant there. And before I go to Ruben, the BMAC thing, it doesn't make sense for the Jets. Honestly, no. It doesn't make sense for the Jets. They just paid C.J. Mosley $17 million per last year. C.J. Mosley is a superior linebacker to BMAC while also similar to BMAC as a run stuffer, but can play better in coverage. You're not going to pay two similar linebackers excess of $27 million per. It doesn't make football sense.
No.
It doesn't, because it's not going to be hard to find a guy that can do what BMAC does for much cheaper. So I just got to say, cut the BMAC stuff out. I don't believe it. It's ridiculous to me. Ruben, what do you think? What do you think trade scenario might look like?
So I like what you're saying, but I feel like you're going to have to give up Garyon Conley.
You add Conley into that, or are you separate?
I swapped Conley for Fuller.
Okay.
And the reason why, if Fuller was at least healthy, you would be, okay, hey, no brainer. The Jets are getting one of the most elite deep threats in the NFL. Problem is he cannot stay healthy to save his life. Garyon Conley played very good for the Houston Texans last year. Cody said it himself that the Jets need cornerback help. And if you're going to give away, somebody in your secondary, you're going to have to gain one. Yeah. Garyon Conley, I think, will make that trade happen. And the reason why I say Garyon Conley is because we all expect Lonnie Johnson to take the next step. We expect the second-year corner who's been working out with the Foot King, who's been talking trash on Twitter, who made his own highlight tape saying, hey, like, I got abused by Travis Kelce, but I want him week 1. Really, bro? Okay, if that's the case and you're betting on yourself, then I think Conley has to go. We weren't even thinking about picking up his fifth-year option. We weren't at all. Yeah, we didn't pick it up.
So real quick, my thing, just it kind of hit me when you're talking about, a problem with Conley, like he was with the Raiders, is he's really good at man coverage. He's not his own corner.
Yeah.
Now, do you remember who the corner was from LA that signed with the Jets? Jermaine Johnson. Different coaching staff now, I think, but he had the same problem. He went from a man scheme to his own scheme, and it didn't work. So if they already know that about Conley, I don't see them pursuing a trade for a guy that doesn't going to fit their system. Does that make sense?
It does, but I mean, I think they'll have to look at the tape and be like, hey, this dude still has a lot of upside. Whereas to Fuller, you got to pray to God he plays more than 8 games. He hasn't been healthy since he's been in the league. And he's gotten worse. He's missed more games as the season goes on. He's never had a 60-catch season. Never had over 1,000 yards. To me, Fuller doesn't do it. Conley does. And if you have to throw in, a Kiki Kuti also, who probably might get cut at the end of the season, who has been in Bill O'Brien's doghouse for the past 1 season, then, hey, you got to do it. More power to you. But this is a move the Houston Texans have to make. They have to make. I don't know how you don't. We desperately need Jamal Adams because he turns his defense around.
All right. I personally don't like giving up Conley because I think he might be our best pure cover corner next year. But that's a topic for a different day. Cody, what do you think about those?
Man, I got to be honest. I think, look, in a vacuum, I don't think you guys have enough to offer.
Yep.
You don't have the draft capital, and I don't think you have the expendable resources in terms of personnel, unless you guys wanted to start talking about moving on from a guy like, say, Cooks. If you want to start talking about, a third rounder and stuff like that, it's probably got, maybe Cooks in a third.
Well, I said a second, a third, and Fuller.
Okay, I get that. The issue is, there's obviously, the second and the third aren't coming in the same year.
Right.
In a vacuum, I think you're going to struggle with that. And also, when you're going to compare those offers against what other teams are going to be,
This is predicated that nobody beats that, obviously. Because if it comes into a pissing match of who's going to offer more, then we're not going to win it.
Yeah.
Unless Jamal Adams just screws it and says, I want to go to Houston.
Which New York has to listen to him. At that point, it's not New York's problem. That's the other team's problem. He's on a rookie contract. He doesn't have a no-trade clause. New York can ship him wherever he wants. Now, whether that team wants to take on that risk, that's their prerogative. But as far as the Jets are concerned, that's not their issue. Which brings me to my other point. The guy running the Jets now is not the same people who've been running the Jets since the 60s, all right? This guy, he knows what he's doing, okay? And I think the Jets know what they're doing in this situation exactly. How many times in the last year have we heard Jamal Adams demand a trade? I demand a trade. The Jets haven't budged. Why? Because they don't need to. They've also maintained that, hey, guess what? We want to pay you. But you're 3 years into your rookie deal. We're not going to give you this extension right now. That's not how we do business. And guess what? That's not how pretty much anybody else in the league does business. I mean, even Patrick Mahomes hasn't got his extension yet. Like, come on, the guy's the most transcendent player we've seen in the NFL since maybe J.J. Watt, So it's Jamal Adams, he really doesn't have a leg to stand on. He also doesn't play a very premier position. Like you said before, Cody, we've seen guys get dealt for multiple firsts in the past, but these were, Khalil Mack, he is a pass rusher, one of the most important positions in football. Jalen Ramsey, corner, one of the most important positions. And Ramsey at the time, I don't think there was really much of a doubt that he was the number one corner in the game. Last year kind of fell off a little bit. Momentum got away from him. He got some negative press because of all the noise he was constantly making. But ultimately, I don't think that the compensation that you guys said for the Jets would be enough to make them pull the trigger. I think it's going to start with Cooks. I think Cooks, second and a third could get it there. But I wouldn't be too, keen on holding on to Conley either. If it meant Conley or Adams, man, it's Adams all day long.
Well, yeah, but obviously I would take Adams over Conley.
Roby and Lonnie Johnson, Of course, teams need more than just 2 corners, granted, but...
Yeah.
I mean, if you got to give up B-Mac too, and they just ask for him, let him go.
Hey, more power to him if they take him. It just doesn't make football sense from outside looking in. But last thing before we cut this off is the cap situation for the Houston Texans. Again, his contract wouldn't kick in until 2022.
Talk to him.
Right now, we have $100 million in cap space.
Talk to him.
$100 million in cap space. Now, with certain moves that we can make, like, hey, getting rid of BMAC, that's $10 million. Cooks, if he's not working out, that's $13 million. Whitney Merciless, it's $12.5 million. Randall Cobb is I think it's closing in on $10 million. Eric Murray's like $8 million. We're looking at $150 million in cap space, just based on 2022 without, re-signing. So say we do trade for Jamal Adams. We give $40 million to Watson. We're still looking at $110 million. You give 17 to Jamal Adams. You still have the 12 you need to give for Reed. Just kind of guessing. The 12 you need for Cunningham. The 10 you need for Conley if we don't trade him. We have plenty of cap space. We are not going to be in cap hell. With all that, we probably still have around 50 mil, 40 mil to fill out the rest of the roster. And guess what? We don't have 2 first-round rookies we got to pay because we don't have first-round rookies. Yeah. We have Titus Howard in 4 more years and Ross Blacklock in 4 years if he works out. We will be fine on cap space. We have it. It's not going to be a problem. And literally, cap can get maneuvered so easily. We literally saw the Chiefs had $199 in cap space earlier this year. They turn it into 10 mil just by switching up contract wording.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's one. Oh, I'm sorry.
Cody, real quick, ask Cody how the Eagles do it every year. Go ahead, Ruben. We'll be fine on cap. Go ahead, Ruben.
If there's one crazy SOB who could do it, it's King Bill.
King Bill? Is that what y'all are calling him now? King
Bill?
That's
what we're calling him, man. If there is one person who could get it done, it's O'Brien. But
okay, continue.
If you're getting Jamal Adams and you lose, we will storm the gates of NRG with our COVID-19 mask on. I don't.
Here's one thing I'll say. First of all, Bill O'Brien better count his blessings because he's got a ride or die fan base if there ever was one. Maybe outside of the Browns. All right, damn.
Oh, the O'Brien sexuals.
Oh, okay. Secondly, I mean, look, like Cody said, for that year, the Texans have 100 mil scheduled in cap space. The Cowboys have 68. Obviously, the Cowboys are well aware of their cap space, and they were still, they threw that first and Anthony Brown on the table. Okay, so if they're willing to negotiate those cap issues with the same typical quarterback contract situation looming ahead, you guys have Watson, we have Dak, then with you guys at 100 mil, the cap nobody needs to be worrying about the cap 2-3 years down the road.
Exactly, dude. It's just, again, everyone thinks it comes in immediately.
Yeah. See, the problem is that us three, we know football like the back of our hands. To the fan, they're just gonna think they have no money. No, that's not how it works. And that's why we're all successful at this YouTube stuff, because we're showing fans the real side of football.
They need to quit watching ESPN. Is what they
need to quit watching ESPN. Start watching JW Football Talk. And start watching your boy 713 Houston Sportcast.
All right. Well, I think that's a pretty good way to end it. As always, if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button.